So I know I have a lot of younger viewers, and I know that I've been asked many times about whether or not I used to be insecure. I've been asked about high school. I've been asked about what happens after high school, life after high school, and I thought I'd just talk a little bit about my high school experience because it's so complex and difficult to really just sum up in a few sentences. And maybe if anyone who is in high school now feels a little lost or overwhelmed with their high school experience, this might be able to provide some sort of light at the end of the tunnel for you. So just a little bit of backstory. Growing up, I've always been the fat person. I've always been the insecure fat person. Of my sisters, I was always the fattest. I was also the biggest loser, I guess you could say. I had my group of friends, but I didn't really have like a solid group of friends, and I always had friends who were who weren't really friends at all, if you could put it that way. They would definitely make me the punchline a lot. They would definitely do awful things to me. But this was like all leading up to high school, and when I got to high school, I luckily did make like a pretty solid group of friends. Like it was me and 3 other girls, and I'm still pretty close with a few of them. And so I had my circle of people, but outside of my circle of people, it was pretty hellish, to be honest. I first off went to a high school that was kind of like notorious for its bad reputation. I have a learning disability, so I kind of like went to a school that I hadn't really known anything about, but it was suggested to my parents that maybe I go there because it would have been easier for me. Looking back, I probably shouldn't have gone there because it kind of ignited in me these like really awful like rebellious traits, but that's for another story. So I specifically remember one of my first days of high school, getting on the bus. I was really nervous, and then getting into class and just kind of like sitting in my seat, and I was just like, just remember like basically having my head down the whole time. And I did know a few people, but for the most part, everyone that I had gone to middle school with had gone to like the other high school, so I was like in a completely new environment. So that was an awful experience to begin with, but I remember slowly by the end of the day getting a little bit more used to it, and I was like, I guess this isn't as terrible. But then at the end of the day, I went to my locker, and these 2 guys, I guess they were like in a fight, just started like roughhousing around me, and then like one of them slams the other into the locker, like literally right beside me, and I'm like, where am I? So already it started off with like a pretty terrible experience. And the first day was definitely like foreshadowing what was to come. I was 100% bullied. Like there was this specific guy, his name was Luke. He just like, for some reason, I was just like that person for him. He literally just like could not walk past me without saying something. And unfortunately, like he was one of the few people who came from my middle school to this high school, and I was like pretty excited to get away from him, but then also really sad when I realized he came to the same school as me, because he used to have this like song that he would sing about me. He'd just be like, roly poly oly, you're big and fat and round, and it's like just like, creative talent and all, obviously. I think the like weirdest thing about it though, looking back, like he was also fat, and he like bullied the hell out of me about being fat, and I don't know why I never just said, you're fat too. Like, why is my body more open to discussion than yours? But again, I was so insecure, I didn't want to stand up for myself. So yeah, I was definitely bullied a lot. And then I guess as a way to kind of overcome that or deal with that, I became one of the bullies for people, which like I feel so, like, I feel so terrible about looking back. Like, I was by no means a victim. I was a victim of other people's bullying, but then I became a bully to people, and I really wish that's not the course of action I took. But I think in my high school setting, it was like, you're either the bully or you're the one being bullied, and I just kind of developed this like thicker skin, and this like really like piss poor attitude of just like bullying people who were like lower in the food chain. And there was definitely like the super popular people, and then there was like I think it was like the super popular people, and then like my group of friends, and then the like not so popular people. So it was a mix. Like, I was bullied, but other people bullied me. And then I was also like really insecure about the fact that like I just wasn't like understanding everything. And then I felt really ugly, and all my friends were getting like boyfriends, and like I dated this guy online for like 6 months. It was, oh God, it was such like a intense and a weird experience. And I truly am in a lot of ways shocked that I made it out of there, because I was like, I was also pretty damn suicidal too, to be honest, and that's not easy to necessarily admit here, because it's kind of like a private thing I dealt with, and my friends knew about it. I also, as a coping mechanism, started cutting myself, and that's definitely not a way to go about it. But I was so like in this like pit of despair because I didn't know how to deal with feeling so completely like worthless. And I felt worthless. I felt like high school would never end. I also felt like I was always going to be like that insecure. I was never gonna be loved. I definitely remember thinking I would like never find anyone. I would never be with anyone. I would never have a boyfriend. That I would just continue to watch like my friends fall in love and my friends get into relationships. But to be honest, looking back, I'm pretty happy I didn't fall in love with anyone in high school, or I didn't have any like crushes that liked me, because I just feel like that was too young for me to really like involve myself with anyone, even though that we were all the same age. But I just feel like it would have made matters like 1,000 times worse, because it would have just made my whole like insecurity like 1,000 times worse. And then I also feel like I saw a lot of people around me like having sex. I didn't like actually see people having sex, but I like a lot of the people that I was friends with, like they were having sex, and they were doing things, and they were like experiencing situations. Like a lot of my friends like were in situations where guys would like force themselves, or they would be really inappropriate. So I just felt so overwhelmed with everything. I compared myself to everyone, and high school was not a good experience, and for me it really wasn't. The funniest thing now is there are certain people who definitely like really wouldn't give me the time of day in high school, and now like they want to be my friend. Like there was this guy that I had like a huge crush on in high school. Like, oh my God, everybody knew I liked this guy. Everybody knew. I remember once I bought him a birthday card and like couldn't work up the courage to give it to him. But yeah, a few years ago he messaged me and like wanted to hang out with me and like was interested, and I was like, no, thank you. So honestly, like if you're somebody who's in high school right now and you're going through the motions and it's feeling like it's never gonna get better, all I can say is have patience. Have patience, get through it, and I really mean get through it, because I did end up quitting high school. And although I don't necessarily regret it, because it definitely led me down a path of being able to truly appreciate education and truly like appreciate like the things that I want out of education, I do really regret not having my diploma. Don't have it yet, unfortunately. But if you're in that situation and it just feels really tough, it feels like it's never gonna get better, I can absolutely, with 100% certainty, tell you it gets better. High school feels like it's the end all be all. It feels like who you are in high school is who you're always gonna be. It feels like the bullying is going to follow you everywhere. And believe me when I say that is not the case. I do still have bullies, but they aren't people who necessarily matter to me. They're not people who I even care about. So bullying feels different now. And that guy that I mentioned, the Luke, who was absolutely my worst enemy in high school, he was like the biggest bully that I had. I saw him once a few years back and I was working and he like came through, and I had this moment where I like looked at him and like he like definitely noticed me, and I was just like, I'm not afraid of you anymore. Like, you did some shitty things to me in high school. I'm sure you're going through your own stuff too, but for the most part, like, you don't matter to me anymore. Like, and if that's who you are today still, then I don't care. Like, I really think you're kind of pathetic. So it's a matter of, like, honestly, high school is pretty awful for the most part, and you couldn't pay me to go back. Well, actually, you could probably pay me like 500,000. I'd go back. But honestly, high school is truly a roller coaster ride that I really feel like helps you develop yourself, but then also is a place that you really get to just be like young and stupid and insecure. And then you look back when you're 28 and you're like, holy fuck, it's been how many years? I don't even think about high school anymore. And a lot of the times, even the people who you weren't even that close with, like, you kind of just like, you're like, yeah, you did some things to me and I did some things to you, and that's kind of what happens in high school. People are kind of shitheads and you kind of just eventually let it go. But for the most part, that's true. But then at the same time, I have definitely tried to right some wrongs, and I've like messaged some people that I was like totally shitty to and apologized to them, because I don't think it hurts to say sorry, even if people don't necessarily feel it anymore, just as like a, hey, I know what I did was kind of fucked up and I'm sorry. I really wish I could like find some of them so I could just extend that same apology. But yeah, that was my high school experience. It wasn't great. It sucked, but I'm still here, and I'm a true testament to the fact that you can overcome it. And I'm not saying that, you know, just because I did, you can too, but I'm just reminding you that with a lot of patience, you can get through it. And I promise you it gets better. And yeah, high school will eventually just become a distant memory to you. Anyways, I really hope that you've enjoyed this video. Please do like, comment, subscribe, and let me know below if there's anything that you would like to see, because I'm completely blanking on video ideas these days. So